Thank you for joining me right here on Splash 105.5 FM. It's your integrity station. It's Insight, and who we have today. We'll be looking at issues around the subsidy payment in Nigeria. What are the economic implications of subsidy in this country, and how we have responded to these drain pipe. Good evening once again and welcome. Professor Adenikinju holds a PhD degree in economics from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. He's a professor of economics in the same department and also a research professor at the Center for Econometrics and Allied Research, as well as a senior research fellow, macroeconomic study group, University of Ibadan. His CV is something that I cannot exhaust right here, but he is right here with me on the program. Professor Adéọlá Adenikinju, welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Prof, I'll start by asking you to tell us your perspective about the word subsidy. It seems Nigerian government has demonized the idea of subsidy and that we have to remove it. I want Nigerians to understand your perspective about this subsidy.
Okay, thank you very much. Subsidy is the difference between the cost of producing an item and the cost at which that item is sold to the public. So let's give a practical example. If the cost of supply of an item is 10 naira, and you sell that item to members of the public at 8 naira, the difference between your cost and the price, which is 2 naira now, is the subsidy. Now, subsidy in itself is not bad. Okay, I mean, people have argued that in other countries, in other climes, that governments do give subsidy. That is true. Okay, but then what we need to ask ourselves, a number of questions. What type of subsidy are you giving us? Is this subsidy on production, to encourage production, to encourage supply, or is it something on subsidy? Or is it on consumption rather? So if you look at some of the developed countries, the subsidies go usually towards production, agriculture, small-scale producers, small-scale entrepreneurs. Those are the people that you want to subsidize, because by subsidizing them, you also create jobs. Okay? Now, the subsidy that we have, then the second question is the subsidy to the poor or to the rich? So even if you are going to subsidize consumption, which type of consumption are you subsidizing? Who are you subsidizing? Is it the poor or the rich? Now, in some countries where they subsidize housing, it's for the poor. You give food, ticket or whatever it is, to the poor, not to the rich. Okay? So if you now bring that to the fuel subsidy in Nigeria, one, we have subsidizing consumption, not production. Two, we have subsidizing mainly the rich, not the poor. Okay? Because if you look at, and Nigeria is the only country where your subsidy goes to petrol. You are not subsidizing kerosene, which is for the poor. You are not subsidizing diesel, which is used to power manufacturing or large-scale transportation. You subsidize petrol that is used by the rich and the well-off. So if you look at the profile of our subsidy, it's the wrongly targeted. Okay? And then the third thing you must also know is that you can also subsidize when you can afford it. A time in the history of this country, maybe we could afford it. But we got it to the level now where we can no longer afford that subsidy. We are practically dying. We are hemorrhaging from subsidy. I mean, if you look at the data, and people have to be very practical, you look at the data. As at the last time, what we spend, our revenue, goes almost entirely towards paying interest on our debt. Every other thing we borrow or we print money, which is inflationary. So it's something that we cannot continue. So you cannot afford it. Like I tell people, you say, oh, Saudi Arabia is doing it, some other countries are doing it. You can simply say that because everybody can afford something now, my children must be able to afford it. No, we are on different planes. So we can't compare ourselves to some of those countries that we want to compare ourselves with. The reality is that this country can no longer afford that wasteful subsidy. It has taken us, it is killing us, and we have to just try to survive.
Now, I thank you for the explanation that we cannot afford it. It is wrongly targeted, and that we need to understand that we are subsidizing consumption and also subsidizing the rich. Now, I'd like you to break it down at this time. When government decided to pull the plug off subsidy, when you said we are practically dying, what were we supposed to do before we pull it off the table in terms of saying subsidy is no longer available? What were the things that we were supposed to do so that the people will glide into the post-subsidy era?
Yeah, thank you. You see, basically, at the time the president announced that subsidy is gone, there's practically nothing we could do again. One, I mean, if you remember, the budget did not, stopped at the first half of the year. Okay, so the budget 2023 wasn't actually expecting that subsidy will continue, towards the second half. That's one. Two, the PIE, which was suspended for subsidy to be allowed, also had had to be reestablished. But more importantly is the fact that it's like you have a patient that is dying that needs to go to surgery. The first thing that you have to get that stop the bleeding of that patient. And at the time we were doing this, the subsidy removal was announced, we were practically bleeding. It's like it was like a patient that was bleeding. So what the president has done was, first of all, to stop that bleeding. And then the second thing that will come, which is what we are saying about palliatives and things like that. In 2010, 2010, I was a technical advisor to the Presidential Committee on the Regulation of the Downstream Sector. Okay, under the late President Yaradua, was going to remove subsidy. He set up a committee headed by the then governor of Boshi State. I've quoted the name now. I was a technical advisor. There were two of us. They were going to remove it, and at that time we were planning, what are the palliatives that will occur, at the time it was being announced, and then, phase over time. That was in 2010. But as we were planning those things, there were people that were leaking whatever we were doing to the press and to the public. And so before you even finish taking decisions, you already have labor and everybody say, oh, you cannot do it, and eventually those things would almost become impossible to do. Because there are forces, there are people who are benefiting from this. I can show you the president has stayed one week after that time. They will have made it so much impossible. Because labor will be on the street, people will be on the street, even though those who are benefiting, who are taking money, will make sure that those things will never happen. So it has to be done. That bleeding must stop. And that was what the president did. Now, the second thing that is happening, which I also like, is that the palliatives that will come out now will be based on consensus. If the president had come and announced that, okay, this is what we're going to do, it is possible that Labour will say, no, that's not what we wanted. Marketer, the state government will say, you did not carry us along. Marketer will say, oh, we are not part of it. But now you are having a committee, or two, at least maybe one or two committees who are working now. So at the end of the day, you're going to have a consensus that Labour will buy into, state government will be part of it, employer will be part of it, and other stakeholders, so that you have something that everybody buy into, and that will be more sustainable, in my view, than where the government, where it is, government just simply say, I'm announcing maybe you increase minimum wage to 40,000, and Labour will say, no, that's not what you wanted. You did not consult us before you announced. So what is going on now will be a will be something that is consensus based, because all the parties are sitting on the table to discuss these palliatives. And we must also know as Nigerians, and I've said this, I made a presentation somewhere last year, that anybody is going to help this country, given where we were, we must be willing to take some tough decisions the next 2 years, because the economic situation is bad. The data for the economy is bad. We've lived so much on borrowed time. We've lived on borrowed funds. So to expect that this thing will not be painful, if there's somebody who is going through surgery or to going through, you have to there are some pains that we have to go through. You know, so there's no palliative that will come that will take away that pain, those pains. That pain must be there. But you see, but we must look at beyond the pains. Where would this country be? And I can assure you, if we hold on and we stick to these changes, Nigeria in the next few years will be different from Nigeria we see today.
How?
Because now, I mean, if you can even start seeing some of the data. What was available at the federation account to be shared this month, 1.9 trillion, we've never had it before in the history of this country. We are saving money. Governments will not be able to perform deliver those democratic dividends that we're talking about. A government that doesn't have money cannot build roads, cannot do anything on education, cannot do anything on health, because something has taken all of them away. But now you are empowering the states, you are empowering the federal government, they have more money to be able to deliver on what they are supposed to do. In the economy, we call it, everything has what we call trade-off. You either spend your money on subsidy or you spend it on development. You can't have both, you have it both ways. So you are taking money away from subsidy and you are going to pour it down on development. We can start seeing now roads being done, and education being attended to, health being attended to. So when we talk about countries in developed countries and say, oh, they have infrastructure, they come from somewhere. Those monies are coming from somewhere. We cannot, on one hand, deprive government of this money and at the same time expect them to do our roads. So for the first time now, the state and the federal account will be sharing about 1.9 trillion. It has never been done before. It is coming now because of the decisions that the government has taken.
Prof, let's look at the sector before we come back to what government is doing. The sector, the petroleum sector now, the oil sector. The NNPC is now a limited company, as it were, owned by government actually, but it's no longer, we can't call it a regulator of the sector anymore. It's into business here. But should the NNPC still be dictating what the pricing template would be on the one side? On the other side, there is a legal framework that made government the sole responsible for dictating what the pricing would be. So don't we have a conflict here?
Yeah, I mean, that conflict has to be resolved. Because the PIA actually says that the market price will determine the sale of petroleum products. That's what's in the PIA. You see, and once we allow the market to do what it does, it will bring investment. You see, we just need to be a little bit patient. If you look at some of the discussions going now, state government are talking about, CNG, turning vehicle to CNG. They are talking about electric buses. Supply will, because opportunity will call now for people to make money. That's what market does. Once we go back on this subsidy removal, we have destroyed the entire sector completely. Because now people are planning what are the opportunities that are there. And we just need to tarry a little and we start seeing all of these things coming up. Now, with respect to NNPC is not dictating price. And I mean, with liberalization that will eventually come, you'll see that there will be competition. I mean, the first cargo from the private sector has just landed yesterday. Now, about 51 companies now have to go and bring your fuel. So whatever we are seeing as the short term. So what NNPC has done is to say, okay, look, what is the landed cost of this fuel? What are the trade margins? There are margins. They simply added that. I think this is how much we're going to sell our products. So those who bought their own yesterday can say, look, I'm going to sell at something that is lower than that. Others will go and bring their fuel and they can also do the same thing. So we should just be a little bit patient that with the market, things will get better. But they may be a little bit, may be a little bit slow. Because these are huge investments. The person that brought their fuel yesterday were talking about several millions of dollars, to bring those fuel in. So it's a whole lot of investment. It's a whole lot of money. But people, this is just under 2 months. So with time, the system itself would go to stabilize itself. Okay? And we'll see, I say in this sector, in the next 3 years, massive investment coming, just like we had for telecommunications. I see private refineries. I see private depots. I see private pipelines. I see us stopping, moving, fuel from the south to the north using trucks. Those things are not done anywhere in the world. They are done by pipelines. But all those things are dead because of subsidy. So the NNPC is not dictating any price. Whatever it has said to say, look, this is how much we brought this fuel to this land, this is the landed cost. And they are already agreed on margins. You pay the person who goes to transport, the marketer, the dealers. And they added 23 naira per litre to whatever is the cost that they brought it in. That's what they've done. So what is driving the current increase are the naira exchange rate, which has depreciated. And also because, which is also good for us in some sense, the price of crude has gone up. Price of crude has gone up in the world market. That will be more money for us to share as a country because we are getting rid of it. But again, it's also going to impose some cost because we still import petroleum products. So those things will change with time.
Okay, so since you are knowledgeable in this area of petroleum sector, and that's your area of research, energy policy here and there, I like you to clear this doubt. Some people have said that if we refine our oil in our soil, on our soil, Dangote refinery, government-owned refineries, modular refineries, will it impact the cost at the pump price?
Sure, it will have some impact. It will have some impact because there are some costs now that we incur because we import that may not be there if we produce locally. Okay, look at what happens. We take our crude from Nigeria, okay, would sell it to other countries, okay. That means it will leave Nigeria. There'll be freight, there'll be insurance, there'll be cost to take it to those countries. They will be refined there, okay, and then we bring them back again. Okay, in some cases, we will pay tax and pay bill to, refining cost to those who are refining them. Then when it gets there, we have to do lightering. You take them from the big ship to the small ship, you pay Nigeria Port Authority, you pay the ship, the small vehicle that does all of that. So there are some overhead costs, which I estimate about 20%, 15 to 20%, that you can avoid if you produce locally. So the price will be a little bit lower than what we are paying now. But it's not as if it's going to be that extremely cheap because again, you still have to price your crude oil at the international price. Okay? And hopefully at that time, because again, you are not importing, the impact of the exchange rate may be a little bit lower than what it is now. Okay? So there definitely will be some gains. Okay? The price will be lower, okay, than what you are paying now. Okay? Because we're going to save, like I said, about between 15 to 20% of the current cost. Okay, and then you have other benefits. You have employment, you have income generation, and other things that will come from us producing domestically. Those refineries would employ people. They will buy raw materials from other areas, other sectors of the economy. And they will pay taxes to government, and so on and so forth. So Nigeria will benefit when we have local production, and that's what is going to happen when you remove subsidy, because now it becomes profitable for people to set up refineries. In fact, it will amaze you that we have domestic refineries now, but they are not producing petrol. They just produce diesel and kerosene. Whereas those ones have been deregulated. But now, once petrol is successfully deregulated the way it is going, then they will start producing all those range of clean petrol. And we have more supply. So a time will come when we don't, as Nigeria will not be queuing again. We will not be talking about queuing, for fuel.
So, do you see government doing something about our refineries?
If I have my way, those refineries should have been sold. Now we have gone to borrow money from Africa Exim Bank, okay, to repair those refineries. And we talk about corruption, we talk about all these other things, and yet we still give government money to go and do those things. If I have my way, those refineries should be sold the way they are, and let private sector manage them. Now the cost that Dangote built its refineries, one governor said that who was working with Dangote before, that the cost of that refinery was almost the same that Nigeria has spent on turnaround maintenance in the last few years.
So you think we should have sold this?
Those things should have been sold, and that was what Obasanjo did until we reverse it. If that thing has sustained by now, We have had our own refineries. The private sector will be run those refineries.
You don't think government should run refineries?
They can't. The history is very clear. Is there anywhere that government has run that is working? Tell me which sector the government is running anything that is working in Nigeria. Just tell me one. They were in Nitel. Nitel throughout his whole time could only give us 500,000 lines. But the government went away. They were in the airlines. Where were they? Well, they have not even government. Every time you want to show me what case that government is running that has worked in Nigeria. So we are not just being practical. We are being idealistic. Government has not run anything that is working in Nigeria. Give me an example.
I don't have examples.
Yeah, because it has not.
Well, Prof, I have a concern, and my concern is this idea will mean that we'll be running some kind of, I don't know what to call it, ultra-capitalist economy.
You see, there are two theories in economics, very important, relevant theories. One is, it's called general welfare theorem. The first welfare theorem says that a competitive equilibrium is Pareto optimal. A competitive equilibrium is Pareto optimal. And what that one is that, you see, there's no way you can organize distribution or production, okay, that is superior to what the market does. There's no country in the world, even go to companies China, they change. Into Russia, they change. The market is the most efficient way of allocating resources. It has been proven by that. The second theory then says that if the market, you are not happy with what the market is doing, they say allow the market to work, but you can then give those who don't have the access, give them some extra income so that they can come to the market to work. The market is the most efficient way. Anytime you work against the market, you create problems. So everything we are seeing, and we see the example around us. You see, the market is not perfect. Okay? If there are problems with the market, you find a way of how do you overcome that problem. It's not to supplant it, okay, by your own artificial. We did it in the foreign exchange market, it's not working. Anywhere you try to control the market, it won't work because there are problems. You just create opportunity for people to make money for themselves. So what we have done now, you are saying let the rich take care of themselves. And there's no reason why somebody should have. I'm not being envious of those who have it. Every day we write, people say they've just bought another Maybach Mercedes, 300 million, and Nigeria should buy fuel for them. So people will just say, we have just released the latest Range Rover, then we should give them fuel, cheap price. You forgot that those who are in the rural areas, my parents who are in the rural areas, they also have the same entitlement to that fuel. Somebody had 12 cars, father will have his own car, mother will have his own car, children will have their cars, and then Nigeria will give them fuel. That doesn't make sense to me. Let those guys pay. And then support those who cannot afford. That's the way it works. In fact, every area except Nigeria, even in Ghana, the price of fuel, 30% of that is tax. That's what they use to do roads. That's what they used to do to expand, other form of, renewable energy to rural areas. Ghana now is getting very close to 100% of electrification rate, because they get tax from this fuel. These people can buy it to get their money and then use it to fund other projects that will help the poor.
So the poor becomes an issue here if the focus is on Nigeria not funding the luxury of the rich by giving them fuel, as you said. And so you mentioned the idea of supporting those who do not have. How?
Yeah, that's very much. You see, the support are in various forms, and they occur over a period of time. That's what we call the immediate support. You have what we call the short term, the medium term, the long term. And in every country where you have done subsidy removal, you have suite of interventions. Okay? One of them is the income the cash transfers, transfers, which I support, but the president and the religion, they have gone back on that.
A lot of people do not like that.
Yes, because again, people the problem I have with the government is that there's no effective communication. Nobody is really trying to tell people why they're doing what they are doing. Because everywhere where you have some semblance of register where you can identify the poor, they are suffering, their immediate suffering, you need to take care of, because there are people who need money for hospital, just 1,000 naira, 500 naira to take care of money or their medical, medical bill or whatever it is. There are those that to even eat, it's a whole lot of, and because of, so those ones need some quick intervention. And when people say 8,000 it's a whole, it's a very small amount of money. In some part of this country, in rural areas, 8,000 is a lot of money for them. What's our minimum wage? 30,000 naira. 8,000 over 30,000, what is that? That's almost a quarter. So you are increasing 25% over that. That's a whole lot of money for those people. So we put ourselves in the position of my own salary now, I'm collecting. What is 8,000 naira to me? There are people who are working in this university.
But people are concerned about the corruption that involves in that allocation.
Again, that you see, we always, when you have a problem, why don't you tackle the problem? Why do you just go and say, okay, look, how do we stop that? How do we ensure that this register reflects? Instead of saying, totally, you don't want to do it. Before we say, oh, we shouldn't remove subsidy because of who will steal the money. There are two-level questions. Remove it, but they have to ensure that they don't steal. There are two levels. You can separate those questions. How do you ensure that the register works? Not that it cannot work. I also did not know that the registers work until I got information from those who have worked on those registers for years.
You have seen the
with
registers?
World Bank. I've not seen it. But if those who have worked, you don't have to. There are things you believe that happen in America. You don't have to see it.
I just want to know whether you have.
I've not seen it.
Prof, you mentioned something about the liberalization of this oil sector, and that we have a lot of importers that will get into the market to bring in fuel and the rest. Who will ensure that we have quality fuel in the society, so we don't have people that cut corners and bring in cheap adulterated fuel and sell at the premium price?
Excellent. That's an excellent question. You see, that's where you have government as a regulator. What the regulator does are in this case, at least two things. One is you have to, and that's where you do licensing. You license and you ensure that whatever quality, you give them the quality of what you need, the specification, okay? And then you ensure that you test for any goods that they bring in, products they bring in, meet those minimum standards. Those who do not, you destroy it, whatever you want to do, or you sanction them, or you withdraw that. So that is what government should do, okay? So government has to be very strong in that area. The second thing you must do as a government is that you also try to prevent what you call, coalition. You don't want them to collude to fix price. So you must make sure that whatever price that they are bringing, they are selling, is not an outcome of a gang up, a collusion. So that's why you have antitrust. Okay, in many developed countries, it's a very serious problem. You will see that Google and Microsoft one day or the other, fines are being imposed on them because of, you don't want them to. So you must guide against collusion by those who are giving the license, those who are going to be playing the field. So those are very important. One, the quality, and ensuring that there's no collusion.
All right. I'm rounding off. The reaction of the people to this subsidy you mentioned also stem from information that they have. How should government communicate the information around this subsidy to the people in such a way that they will buy into it and the poor will not continue to cry?
Again, I've chosen my one very carefully. Whether it's the poor that is crying or whether it's the elites that are crying,
So who's crying?
Because we have to be very careful. We hide under the poor. Subsidy of kerosene is now over 1,000 naira per liter. That's what the poor consumes. The elites didn't raise one dime, one finger when that price went to that. Diesel went to 900 naira. The elites didn't say nothing. Now you take petrol and say the whole Nigeria want to die. Those in the village that don't even see those petrol, they don't even see them. So I mean, we have to be very careful with actually crying, you know, and really, in my view, the elites who have access to the media, who have access to the television and radio, are the ones that are really the ones doing a lot of the crying. Now, but that's by the way. The second, and I've said this again last year when I was also delivering a lecture somewhere. I said, any government that came in at that time, there has to be a lot of reforms, tough decisions, but you must also communicate regularly with the masses. And I liken it to the American presidency. Every evening, the press secretary to the president, meets with the press for about an hour, almost every day, and they ask questions. So you have continuous communication, so that anything that is coming, they are able to report, either convey what government is doing, be able to answer, get feedback, and then respond to that. We need to get to a level where it's not periodically, because now a lot of people are confused, people are going through a whole lot, and they need that information. What are you doing? What are the plans forward? What are those information should come. I don't see that now. I see that once in a while Mr. Lake comes in and says some things and just go away, and then people are still okay, and then after some time, he comes, after a long time, he comes again. It shouldn't be. We are at a time when we need to manage information. People have been patient, people have shown understanding, and they have to know this what is going on, what the government is doing periodically. That feedback must be there. I've not seen that. I think that is a lacuna, it's a gap that has to be filled. And two, is that government itself must also show that we ourselves, we are making sacrifices.
How?
Whatever they need to do to let Nigerians know that look, in our own part, there are some things we should have done before. We are not going to allow them now. And there are some, like the president, we are not going to allow for any increases in our this. That's one way. But other things that will show the people, it may just be signaling, okay? To just show that, look, we are committed also to what we have said we are going to do. Like the Kenya president said, because they also face their own thing, he took tough decisions, the taxes as he created taxes, because they say, if you want to confront the West, you can't be a borrower at the same time you confronting the West. So the guy want to deliver it, so people say, let us raise the money we'll spend. So that means we have to be more sacrifice, and things like that. And he told them, say, look, our own salary and things like that, either it was going to cut or it was not going to be increased, but it's going to increase the worker's salary. So you have to make pronouncement. National Assembly, everybody say, this is what we are going to, this is the sacrifice we're going to make. So everybody knows that the next 2-3 years you are taking the decisions for the good of this country. I believe you can, if you hold this ship steady, what is going on in the petroleum sector, energy sector, what is going on in the foreign exchange market, and all those refined, and then the fiscal side. Once we are able to do that, we'll be amazed in the next 4 years where Nigeria will be. We'll set a course for development, for a real growth in this country.
But if we do not take this path, what will happen to our economy?
We'll be like Venezuela. We'll be like Zimbabwe. That's where we're going. If you collect 1 naira, and that one is not even enough for you to pay your interest on your debts, and then the food you eat, the clothes you wear, every other thing you have to go and borrow, that country is dead.
As I close, what will be your word for government and also your word for the people as we take this path of post-subsidy era?
Where to the people to let them know that we have all been sick at one time or the other, ill at one time or the other, and they ask, take drugs or take injections. Nobody like it. Nobody likes drugs. Nobody likes injections. But some of those things are the necessary process for us to recover. We have lived a life of illusions for a very long time. Now reality has dawned on us that we need to make some sacrifices for the sake of our own future and that of our children, so that we don't start jackpot all over the place. We need to build this country. This country is a country of great potentials. 200 billion people plus is an asset with a huge human natural resource. We have a lot, but the policies we practiced in the past will not take us to anywhere. So we need to change course. So as a people, we must need to understand that we're at a point where we must make sacrifices for our own future and for the sake of our children and the future of this country. So let us try a while with the government. If there are suggestions, yes, we should make those suggestions. But if we go back, it will be more costly for us than pressing forward. And to the government, I think the government has taken tough decisions, they are right decisions, but they need to communicate more. They should spend more time communicating, and they must also live the life. And they must live by examples to show that they also believe what they are advising us to do. So as we tighten our belt, they must also demonstrably tighten theirs, so that Nigeria will see that all of us are in this together.
Professor Adéọlá Adenikinju of the Department of Economics, as you deliver our lecture tomorrow, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
What should we expect?
Yeah, well, I look forward to it. I mean, like I hold the Chief Accountant in very high esteem. So it's a great privilege to be, to join, the very cerebral and very senior people, that have delivered past lectures. So I look forward to the meeting tomorrow, and I will do my best, and I hope I will get good feedback, in terms of the questions and the answers. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you very much for having me.